Cardinal Dolan speaks about why he and the other cardinal electors picked Pope Leo XIV as our new pope. Found this great video. I love Cardinal Dolan. He's super funny, very, very charismatic, engaging, and he has some great insights. And so I saw this video of him talking about his experience in the conclave and prior to the conclave. Had some interesting insights, so let's take a look. If you guys are interested in this type of stuff, please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. Let's jump right in the video.
Well, cardinals from all over the world elected the Pope to lead the Catholic Church.
His Eminence, Timothy Cardinal Dolan, was there in the conclave. He's joining us live from Rome this morning. Your Eminence, how you feeling?
So in case you don't know, Cardinal Dolan is the Archbishop of New York. He's also a cardinal. That's why he was here voting for the Pope.
Rosanna and Kurt, I'm ecstatic. I'm a little tired and I'm homesick, so it's good to be with you. Thanks for the invitation. Good to see you.
It's kind of cool how he knows the host names. He seems to have a good relationship with the media in New York.
Good to see you too. So what happened? He wasn't even on the short list.
I'm still trying to figure it out. Well, thanks for reporting on the beautiful Mass today. It's a tradition that on the first morning after the election to gather again at the Sistine Chapel where we made the decision. And we had a beautiful Mass. And he touched our hearts. He spoke very simply. He spoke very sincerely. He spoke to us personally. He spoke briefly. So he's already continuing the good teaching of Pope Francis, who always...
Yeah, his homily seemed simple. It was very tradition focused on the mission of the church and evangelization. He mentioned Mary at the end. He didn't talk about himself, which I think means something. It would have been easy to kind of talk about what you're feeling at this moment or that kind of thing. And that wouldn't necessarily have been bad. But instead he focused on the mission of the church, not on him. And he focused on the office of Peter, on the office of Pope. So I thought that was kind of cool. And he, certainly, as Dolan said, he didn't preach for very long. Pope Francis was big on that. I'm a huge fan of short Sunday homilies.
Which was yelling at us not to preach too long. So I'm glad he's continuing that tradition. But the days before, and really Rosanna and Kurt, so now I've been here over 2 weeks, and since I got here, we cardinals have been meeting seriously every day. Now, we didn't go into conclave until Wednesday night for the lockdown, but we were still meeting every day.
So yeah, they've been talking. I think sometimes people think maybe the conclave is the beginning of the discussions or the deliberation. And maybe that's how it used to be in the history of the church. I don't know. But in the modern world, it seems like as soon as Pope Francis passed, all the cardinals immediately, the voting cardinals immediately flew to Rome and started meeting and started talking to each other. And they all knew what was coming. The conclave wasn't a surprise. I'm sure they were saying, well, who do you guys think? Well, what are you all thinking is needed? What names are you throwing out? So, and also I would guess with the rise of the media as well, some of them were at least kind of familiar with each other too. Although Pope Leo XIV was not in the media, his name was sort of unknown. I would think some of them still knew each other and about each other as they spoke before the conclave actually started. So that when it actually did start, they had a clear idea of what was going to happen.
Getting to know one another, speaking about the challenges, the difficulties, the promises, the hopes of the church. And darn it, it paid off. Because when we went in there Wednesday afternoon, I think most people had a clean, clear idea about the candidate that they wanted. And it didn't take that long, did it? If you think here, you got 133 cardinals from all over the world. They told me there were 23 different language groups all over the world. And yet within 24 hours, we were able to make one of the most significant decisions we'll ever be called to make. I think that's a good sign.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Most of us have a hard time deciding what we want to watch on Netflix, and the fact that they were able to create a 2/3 majority within the college within just a few hours, basically, of voting, less than a day, is kind of extraordinary. So they must have had an idea. I wonder if he was the name they were talking about, or if that just kind of emerged very quickly. I don't know.
Are you friendly with Pope Leo?
I wish I could tell you that he and I were on the same baseball team when we were in grade school together, but no, I have to be very, Rosanna, and I have said this, Kurt, I really didn't know him. And when I got here, when you're talking to the other cardinal, I knew of him, and I knew he had a very prominent position here at the Holy See as prefect, as head of the dicastery, the department for bishops. So I never had to approach him about anything. Thank God. You usually only approach him when there's trouble going on. But I had heard excellent things about what a sensitive listener he was, After he had heard all the sides, he was able to make a pretty clear decision. He ran a good meeting. He was a good administrator. I had heard that, but when I got here in Rome, I would hear his name. And what's interesting is my brother cardinals, not from the United States, would come up to me and say, "What about Prevost?" And I said, "Well, what about him? Who is he?" Well, they said, "Don't you know him? He's an American cardinal." We really never considered him as a cardinal from the United States.
That's actually a really good point. When I first saw him come out on the balcony, I was like, who is this? I didn't really know. And I kind of feel better, honestly, knowing that neither did Cardinal Dolan, also wasn't super familiar with him. When you heard about the cardinals in the United States, it was generally other ones that you were thinking about. This name, Prevost, didn't really come up. And it makes sense because he did a lot of his ministry outside the United States. He'd been working in the Vatican for a couple of years, that kind of thing. But of course, yeah, he is an American cardinal, and he's the one they wanted.
Because he spent most of his life as a very effective missionary in Peru.
You know,
I'm not afraid to say that. So when they asked me, I said, I don't know the guy. I better get to know him because obviously people are talking about him. I had the pleasure, it was just by chance, of the morning of our second day. I had breakfast with him. That was all. You walked into the Doma Santa Marta for a lousy Italian breakfast. They make up for it at Pranzo, Rosanna, as you know.
That's good.
But, so the hard bread and the lousy cup of coffee. And I sat next to him. So I got to know him. He ends up telling me he was in St. Louis, my hometown, for a while.
I love how we're talking about the new pope that got elected, but Cardinal Dolan is squeezing in some reviews about the food that he didn't like. I wonder if they're going to hear this. Maybe they should hear this. Some hard bread and a lousy cup of coffee.
An Augustinian priest. So, and even then I thought, this guy's the real thing. I like him. So here we go.
I think you headed towards something that may be different than what we've heard about the conclave or gotten used to. With modern technology and with cardinals getting together sooner rather than having to come from all over the world, you maybe have a candidate in mind when you get there because people know each other a little bit better than they did 100 years ago, 150 years ago. Do you think that had an impact when you got in the room and the voting started? Did he emerge as a candidate early on, or did he wind up being kind of more of a consensus guy?
Well, Kurt, to use a Catholic word, bingo, you're onto something, all right? I think it was to his advantage that he wasn't talked about. I think it was to his advantage that he was a guy we didn't identify with any one trend or style within the College of Cardinals. I think it was to his advantage that they didn't really know he was from the United States. They didn't even know where he was from. He's sort of a citizen of the world, as we're a citizen of the world to come, not here. I think that was to his advantage, Kurt. So while you will understand I can't talk about the details and the intricacies of the conclave itself, let's just say that before we went in, I'm thinking that a lot of my brother cardinals shared my esteem for him simply because he seemed to have come from nowhere. Remember when they said about Jesus in the gospel after his first miracle and sermon, the people said, who's this guy? Where'd he come from? We kind of like him. We want to get to know him better. That seems to be what characterized Robert Francis Prevost, now Pope Leo.
So he can't speak about the details, and I respect him keeping that confidentiality. But that question the host asked is one I think we all have. Was this the name going in that they were all like, okay, we think we can get him to a 2/3 majority? Or during the voting, was there not anybody else emerging and somebody threw out his name and he just got a lot of the votes pretty quickly? We don't know, and maybe we'll never know. But that is an interesting kind of question. And his emphasis on the fact that maybe him not being well known was kind of helped him to get elected is kind of an interesting sentiment.
So what do you think the message is with the election of him as the new pope?
There was a great headline today, Kurt and Rosanna. There was a great headline in the Corriere della Sella, which is kind of one of the premier newspapers in Italy. And it simply said, un papa calmo, a calm pope, a serene pope, a peaceful pope, a shy pope. We could say a lot of loving words about Pope Francis. I don't think we use the word shy, okay? But with him, everybody's sort of saying he seems kind of thoughtfully pensive. He seems to take things in.
Yeah, you kind of saw that maybe when he came out on the balcony. I mean, I don't want to interpret things too much too early, but he seemed just kind of to peacefully be looking at the people. You kind of see some tears, understandably, coming down, his cheeks. But there wasn't this grandiose kind of like, welcome guys, I'm the new Pope. That really wasn't the sentiment. It was very, very calm, and he was there just kind of taking in the moment. I remember before this, Bishop Barron had said he was kind of hoping for a quiet papacy, that he thought that might be good right now in the church. And so it's kind of interesting that the headline was a calm pope, a peaceful pope. Again, very early to necessarily make that judgment, but it's curious that that's sort of what seems to be coming out at this moment.
I think that's what moved us. That's what moved us. You know what? We all share the same theology. We all share the same faith. But you kind of would look for a person who kind of inspires trust, confidence, a kind of guy that you'd say, I'd be grateful if he were in charge. I think that said it, Kurt.
All right, before you go, between us, Your Eminence, did you vote for him?
Between us, Rosanna, none of your business.
Perfect answer.
He's just, I love Cardinal Dolan's charisma. He's just good with people, and he clearly knows these hosts. That's the perfect way to answer that, is to crack a joke without having to awkwardly say, like, I'm not going to tell you.
Next time we're at the restaurant and have a couple too many grappas, maybe you can ask me again. Okay?
Oh, okay.
And Your Eminence, did you invite him to New York? Have you gotten a chance to invite him to New York?
I invited him to New York. I said, unless he went to Chicago first, don't bother. Okay.
When you get to come home?
So we were all waiting for. We all want to stay for the mass. I mean, the minute he says in the Sistine Chapel, "Accepto," I accept. That's a very formula in Latin. After he's obviously won the voting, the cardinal who's in charge, who was, at the time was the Cardinal Secretary of State, he said, do you accept? And the minute he said, accepto, I accept, he is the successor of Peter. There's a formality to go through the beautiful mass of inauguration as the successor of Peter, which we all want to stay for, to give him support, to get support from him. That'll be a week from Sunday, so I'll be home on Monday, all right? Invite me in on Tuesday morning, okay, Rosanna?
You got it. We got it. We're going to talk to Joe. Safe travels, and give our best to Pope Leo. Gotta love it. He says he'll talk to them at the restaurant later. Maybe he'll give away the secrets of who he voted for. So, cool to hear this perspective of somebody inside. Just a whirlwind last couple of days. This has been awesome that the Catholic Church is in the spotlight in a lot of ways, and I hope that the media attention will translate to the light of the faith, the light of Jesus Christ, being made present to the world. And I hope that this will be an invitation. All these videos going around become an invitation to others. Maybe there's something here. There's something beautiful here. There's something joyful here. There's an excitement here that maybe I want to be a part of. That's the hope. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know if there's other videos you think might be good to react to. And we'll see you next time. God bless.